Screen. My internet seems a bit slow today, so hopefully it will be okay.
Not a worry.
And we're up to number 7. So since we missed your dulcet tones last week, Gary, you want to start?
Sure. Oh, I wish I could read number 6.
Oh, well, let's do number 6 again then. That's cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The Bible repeatedly states that you should praise God. This hardly means that you should tell him how wonderful he is. He has no ego with which to accept such praise and no perception with which to judge it. But unless you take your part in the creation, his joy is not complete because yours is incomplete. And this he does know. He knows it in his own being and its experience of his son's experience. The constant going out of his love is blocked when his channels are closed, and he is lonely when the minds he created do not communicate fully with him. Wow.
What made you want to read that passage, Gary?
I just felt intuitively like there was something there for me to read. And that it meant and it actually does, quite frankly. I've never thought of God being lonely when the minds he created do not communicate fully with him. That gives me like this twist, because my meditation is repeating these 5 sacred names of God. And I can see how I can use that to be like calling out to God in a way that is about longing and fulfillment. And that would be communicating fully with him. Who'd like to read number 7?
Go on, Carly.
Yeah, okay. God has kept your kingdom for you, but he cannot share his joy with you until you know it with your whole mind. Revelation is not enough because it is only communication from God. God does not need revelation returned to him, which would clearly be impossible, but he does want it brought to others. This cannot be done with the actual revelation. Its content cannot be expressed because it is intensely personal to the mind that receives it. It can, however, be returned by the mind to other minds through the attitudes, the knowledge from which the revelation brings.
So V, what's the definition of the revelation?
Oh,
do you have that written down?
No, I don't think I do. I'll do a search in my document, but I'm pretty sure I don't. And
I'll ask Siri. Hey, Siri. What does the revelation mean in the Course in Miracles? It's the revealing or disclosing of some form of truth or knowledge through communication with a deity or other supernatural entities.
actually, there is a definition. I just searched the document. So, revelation is the holy instant. Revelation unites you directly with God. Miracles unite you directly with your brother.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this one, or is it pretty clear?
I wouldn't say it's clear. It's sort of like you've got to share your revelations. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to bang other people over the head with your revelations.
I've tried that.
Most Christians try some form of sharing their
Yes.
revelation all too.
Yeah. Not necessarily like a revelation in this context, but I think it applies to any idea you want to share. So when I was trying to help my mum with all the medication she was on and with her own health, so I was doing research and I said, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Can't tell people what they should do.
Well, it's really interesting. The very last line, I think, clears it all up. It says, it can, however, be returned by that mind to other minds through the attitudes, the knowledge that from the revelation brings. So if the revelation we're defining it as a holy instance, it's about those moments in time when we can bypass all the differences and just really connect to another person through that sacred state of seeing the God inside of them. And that is how, I believe, that's how we would do that. It's interesting when we come together with groups of people, which I rarely do, to be able to sit in that state of seeing the divine in everyone is rare. I find it difficult to do, but in the moments I've been able to do it, it has created such peace and calmness in me. And I'm pretty sure this is what they're speaking of here. Any other input? Okay, I have a question. Because this is kind of important, gang. This means nothing unless we actualize it into action, right? It's like we have to actualize it into action. I will always come to these groups and I'll always do this, but my thing is I need to be reminded to do it in action with people I don't necessarily want to do it with. And in situations that I know that I have to stop judging and see this instead of what I'm my senses and my ego's perceiving. I want to know if it is as difficult for you as it is for me. Is it as are you as forgetful to do this as I sometimes are or am?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what's the feedback
you.
from our gallery of viewers here?
Well, I think it's probably helpful to probably even like I've just written out that my attitude can allow the sharing of knowledge. Check my attitude. So that's going to be my motto for the week, is to check my attitude before I share anything. Am I coming from a place of judgment, or am I wanting to share for the betterment of everybody, or where am I coming from with this message?
It's almost like our attitude has to be guided by our intention. Like, what's our
Yes.
intention in this group? And what's our intention when we're out in the world and we're dealing with things? I mean, it was very interesting. We got delivered a brand new, beautiful car on Thursday. It was an expensive car. We sold 5 cars to get this car. We got the car, and it's
You had 5
beautiful.
cars to sell?
We had 3 cars to sell, which we sold, and then a golf cart, which we sold to get this one car. So then the car comes and it's beautiful. And we put it in the garage, and it's all in the garage, all hanging out there. And Robert adjusts the seats, puts in the music, adjusts the lights, all that kind of stuff. We go out the next morning because it was snowing. We didn't want to drive it. We go out the next morning, and the car is dead. Like, you cannot even open the door because everything's electronic. You can't even open up the door. Lights won't work. Seats won't work. Won't go into gear. Won't go into reverse. You can't start it. Nothing worked. And we're looking at this going, huh, we could freak out right now.
That's an expensive ornament.
both of us kind of looked at it and we just kept going back to the garage, looking through our window into the garage, going, well, it's really pretty. You know? But we can't bloody drive it. So we finally, I wasn't freaking out at all, and Robert, wasn't freaking out. And I looked at him. I said, "Do you realize that we're not freaking out at all about this?" And he goes, "No, I just feel like it's just a thing, and we'll get it fixed, and it's nothing." And that's how we've been. And it's what it got delivered last Thursday, and it's almost a week, and we still don't know what's wrong with it. And we're both laughing about it, which I find very interesting. So I do think that the whole attitude piece is so vitally important, to not allow yourself to get fired up, triggered off, that everything is actually working in the divine right order, and to keep that focus all the time. If we can do that, then we don't lose our peace. Most importantly, we don't lose a positive intentionality that creates our attitude to see through the Holy Spirit. So I really do think, like, a lot of what the Course in Miracles is teaching us how to have some higher level of mental emotional management. Because if we can't see it differently, we can't respond differently.
So you asked the question, Gary, what are we showing up here for every week?
Yeah. And
For me,
what do we
this is
do?
a reminder.
Because I keep forgetting, like, we get done, I get an awareness, I get an awakening, I start my day the following day, and I'm like, am I remembering what I learned from the night before? And sometimes I do, and then the next day comes, and as more time gets distance between myself and our group, the less I'm remembering. I want to know if other people are having a similar experience. And if you're not, what are you doing differently?
I think I have moments where I slip and moments where I shine. And it's definitely, if I wasn't doing this every week, it would definitely slip more. So this is the reminder, I guess. But what to do every day? Well, I guess it's the meditation. It's I haven't been doing the lessons for a while because they've become like 6 or 8 pages each. It's just become a bit much to read. And then I read them for the purpose of sharing them in the Facebook group, and it just feels like it's a bit more private now. But I don't really want to be like doing it for everybody else, and I'm not getting any feedback on it either. So it's like, well, I can't do this for you. So,
Yeah, no kidding. Carly, what's your experience?
Yeah, a lot like yours, I think. Yes. I come here, I love it, and for upliftment, and I love the learning, love talking to you guys about it, and I look forward to it. I wouldn't say that I put it into practice that much.
Okay, that's fair enough.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I think as well, Gary, with what you've said here and what this passage is saying, with sharing it with our brothers and sisters, an attitude that will open or plant the seed for others as well. Maybe that's the lesson. This, how to do that for other people as well.
Well, I think that's how we grow it in ourselves. I'm pretty convinced of that the more that we can do it, the more it grows within ourselves. And I think that is the whole purpose of atonement. Joey, how about you, buddy?
For the most part, I take quite a few notes, and some of those notes will stay on my desk. Other times I'll stick them to my dresser, so to say. So when I wake up, that's one of the first things I see. But as for sharing with our brothers and sisters, I think one of the greatest ways we're doing that is just meeting, recording, us talking to people, putting it out there. I mean, I know I've invited a few people, not everybody has shown, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep inviting, and if it's not their time, it's not their time. You know, it's like you can't force people. You can only share info. I've always said we're farmers planting seeds, and that's all we're doing is we're planting that seed. Whenever that seed decides to grow and blossom, it's on their time, not mine. So just keep sharing the wisdom and learning as we keep connecting.
Yeah.
And also do remember that this goes on YouTube and people do watch it. You know, sometimes there's only a dozen, or sometimes there's 200. So who knows? We are planting seeds.
Yeah. I just, for me, it ultimately it's a solo journey. Ultimately it's what we do with our own focus of mind. But I think it's something really beautiful to do with a group and have like a group synergy that's committed to something similar. And that sort of empowers us, at least it empowers me. Jane, do you have anything you want to share around this conversation? Callie's in the hospital with her friend Ian, and
Oh,
and hopefully Ian will be fine. But yeah,
just where
so
things are at right now. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel there's a couple of things that I take with me throughout the days, the hours during the week. And they're kind of like mantras that I use from the Course of Miracles, but really I have for many years. And so that is so helpful, is having these one sentence mantras that I use. And I have several of them, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Oh gosh, I wish I could. Now they're out of my head, but um and I think the other thing too is that I'm lucky enough at this point in my life is that I guess I've built a spiritual success posse, I guess I'll call them. I probably have maybe anywhere from 11 to 14 female friends that are scattered throughout the United States, mostly in New York here with me. And we're all on the same wavelength. So that's huge. I think I think, for me, it's Tuesday night here in New York. That's very important. But we need continuous connection, and reminding and reinforcement. And I think gratitude, being in gratitude. When I can't find my way, I'm having a day or an hour, someone said something to me, or I'm not feeling capable of something or whatever, to just be in gratitude. It's like, okay, great. It's sort of like slapping your own face into awakening.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Jane. I do think though that we can only give what we've got as well. And so our individual practice, I think, is sort of the birthplace of where we can give to others. Without that, I think it becomes difficult. I think they both feed one another. like in a symbiotic loop where your own private practice increases the intensity through giving to others, and having that reciprocated in like grows that connection, your own personal connection. So they're sort of symbiotic in nature. You guys want to move on to number 8?
Sure. Who wants to read that one?
I'm looking at you, Veronica.
Okay. God is praised whenever any mind learns to be wholly helpful. This is impossible without being wholly harmless, because the two beliefs must coexist. The truly helpful are invulnerable because they are not protecting their egos, and so nothing can hurt them. Their helplessness is their praise of God, and he will return their praise of him because they are like him, and they can rejoice together. God goes out to them and through them, and there is great joy throughout the kingdom. Every mind that is changed adds to this joy with its individual willingness to share in it. The truly helpful are God's miracle workers, whom I direct until we are all united in the joy of the kingdom. I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful, and to whoever can follow my guidance through you.
Awesome.
Well, being wholly harmless means letting all the guards down, doesn't it? No protection required.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a
It's
tough place
definitely
to
about
be.
definitely about not taking anything personally. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Huh. That last line is quite interesting. I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful, and to whoever can follow my guidance through you. So if we were to take that literally, it would almost be like whoever comes into our sphere of influence is who we can be truly helpful to, and be an example of that actualization in ourselves. That would make all of our relationships kind of trippy, wouldn't it? Even the ones that are incredibly annoying. That would be a very different frame to place around it.
Definitely. So whoever's in front of us, really, how can we help?
Yeah, whoever's in front of us, it's almost like it is our karmic duty to whoever comes into your path to see what you have to teach and what you have to learn. Don't change it yet. I'm writing this down. This is a good one.
My philosophy on praying, or what's going well, praying as well as our little monkey minds, or whatever's going through our mind, is my kind of theory and visual is that whatever we're thinking of, God just says yes. So whether that be good or bad, it doesn't matter to him. It just says yes. And this is kind of what this is saying as well. You just say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so curious to me how people will say, there can't be a God because look at what is happening. Like, why would God do this to us? And I'm like, I don't think God had much to do with it. I think it's your own thoughts that created this. So it's our own collective thoughts that actually manifest out in the three-dimensional world and create the world to be what it is. God gave us the ability to create whatever it is we focus upon, but does not have judgment because it does not have ego and does not see suffering. So whatever we are focused upon is what gets created in the three-dimensional world. And God just goes, I have no judgment. I know there's no pain, there's no bodies, those don't exist. It's an illusion. If you want to create pain and suffering, have at it. If you want to create peace, hope, and beauty, have at it. I have no judgment of either. So wouldn't that be a kick in the pants if all we had to do was really focus only on what we actually really wanted?
Mm. Yes.
So as the world continues to heat up and the greater weirdness that is happening currently in the world continues and maybe even amplifies, I think it's really important, and this is, I'm talking to myself here because this is really hard for me to do. I have to continue to focus on what I want and what I envision, not on what is showing up. Because if it's ever going to change, it's going to change from the collective choice of millions of people who choose something different than what's occurring right now.
Mm.
You guys want to move on? You want to stay here for a while on this slide?
Just got thumbs up from Jane, so I think we're right.
Okay. That was a very little thumbs up, Jane. Oh, the double thumbs up already.
Healing and Wholeness, chapter 5.
You want me to just start again? We'll just go in a sequence?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, has Jane, have you read? Do you want to read?
Oh, yeah, I thought Jane had read.
Sure.
Oh,
Sure.
good.
No, I'm happy to.
Yay.
To heal is to make happy. I have told you to think how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourself, and how many you have refused. This is the same as telling you that you have refused to heal yourself. The light that belongs to you is the light of joy. Radiance is not associated with sorrow. Joy calls forth an integrated willingness to share it and promotes the mind's natural impulses to respond as one. Those who attempt to heal without being wholly joyous themselves call forth different kinds of responses at the same time, and thus deprive others of the joy of responding wholeheartedly. Wow. Beautiful. You know what I'm reminded of with that is the preachers and those that stand on the pulpit or at the pulpit who are disingenuous or wholeheartedly or not wholeheartedly there. That what it attracts, you know, and it's sort of like we don't attract what it is that we want. We attract who we are.
Yep.
And you know, and good night, right?
I'll go ahead and take the next one unless we're going to speak about this anymore. Does anyone have any comments you want to make about the first paragraph?
Now it's on one page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you are blessed by every
The one, sorry, Gary, number 2, the one on top, because I changed the page all around.
Okay, Cool.
Sorry.
To be wholehearted, you must be happy. If fear and love cannot coexist, and if it is impossible to be wholly fearful and remain alive, the only possible whole state is that of love. There is no difference between love and joy. Therefore, the only possible whole state is the wholly joyous. To heal or to make joyous is therefore the same as to integrate and to make one. That is why it makes no difference to what part or by what part of the sonship the healing is offered. Every part benefits and benefits equally. Wow.
Mm,
That is a huge statement.
yeah. To heal or make joyous is therefore the same as to integrate and to make one. That's amazing. I love that. And that's why our medical system doesn't work, because we just try and break up the body into little tiny bits without looking at how the whole thing works together.
Yeah.
I've been doing kinesiology with a lady here. It's not any other, I haven't experienced it this way before, but it's just amazing how the body knows what it needs, and not just the body, but the spirit. The way that she does it, it's just, she's asking my body what it needs, and it responds, and then we have healing. It's beautiful. And when we
Have
get,
you ever go ahead.
so when we're getting a pain in a certain part of the body, it's just a message. And we just try to get rid of the pain, but it's not. The pain's the messenger.
Mm.
Shut him up, he's just going to show up somewhere else.
Have you ever gone into grocery stores and did apply kinesiology on yourself and muscle tested foods?
I haven't consciously done that. I can imagine it'd be very interesting.
Oh, it's tricky because, our body changes and different nutrients are needed at different times. And when I've done it, foods that I would normally always generally eat, and I'll go in and I'll muscle test. I'll put my hand on especially if it's vegetables, I'll put my hand on the vegetable and muscle test, and it'll be a no. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not what my body needs right now. Go off to someplace else. And sometimes very little is what my body needs. So I make the shopping list shorter and shorter and shorter. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't buy my fruit and veg from the supermarket though.
Yeah, I don't have much choice. I'm so jealous. That's why you Aussies always live longer. Who wants to read number 5? 3.
3. I guess I'll do that. Joe, have you read yet? No, you want to read that one?
Oh.
Sure. Number 3?
Yeah.
You are being blessed by every beneficent thought of any of your brothers anywhere. You should want to bless them in return out of gratitude. You need not know them individually, or they you. The light is so strong that it radiates throughout the sonship and returns thanks to the Father for radiating his joy upon it. Only God's holy children are worthy channels of his beautiful joy, because only they are beautiful enough to hold it by sharing it. It is impossible for a child of God to love his neighbor except as himself. That is why the healer's prayer is, let me know this brother as I know myself.
That kind of reminds me of how, you know, even we do it. I'm sure each individual one of us does it. Again, I do it quite a bit without meaning to, but then I can stop myself most of the time. Where we've made all these assumptions about why people have done what they've done, and we have no idea what's going through their head or what their intention is. And I know that we've read somewhere else in here that, or it might have been for your courses, Gary, I can't distinguish anymore, but how everything comes from either from love or a call for love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else when you break it right down like that.
I think that's an incredible frame to put around as we navigate our way through the world and the relationships in the world. You know, we all have a tendency to judge behavior or what people say or do. But if you just use it in your mind, like either that's love or it's a call for love, and that is a really loud call for love over there. But I think for me anyways, a really important thing that I have to think about is it's not necessarily my call to answer, because if I answered all the calls for love, there'd be nothing left of me because I can't give like that yet. But I can see the light of God in that person within my own mind and do a silent prayer inside of me for them. And that then aligns me to a deeper part of myself. So if we were going to really practice this, that may be a practical practice to put in place for yourself. View it only as a call for love and do a silent prayer for them.
Beautiful.
Does anyone else have any?
I'm kind of reminded. Yeah, excuse me. I muted myself, or I don't know. Sorry. I'm reminded of that reminds me of what Louise Hay would always say, that when a certain person was in her midst and they would say, I'm having a terrible time trying to accept my mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, it doesn't matter. And she would her go-to was, I want you to see that person as a 5-year-old. And I want you to see, and she would bring, so to me, like that was saying the same thing. Seeing the call for love. Because so oftentimes it's the child in us that is in such need. And when we go back in time, either to our own child or the child in someone else, therein lies the call for love. And then we can back off and say, bless you, brother, bless you, sister, I have no judgment, kind of a thing,
I've done a lot of thinking about what you just said, Jane. Thinking, like this part of us that represents this shadow of compounding hurts throughout our life that turns into that reptilian brain response, that knee-jerk response of fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
And I've kind of peeled back the layers on that in my own practice with working with people. I mean, one of the things that I've concluded is that it all goes back to unresolved trauma. And
Right.
I was talking to another consultant, and he said the most Googled, searched for topic in personal development is healing the shadow. And there's all these different systems. You sit down, you talk to the shadow, and you make an internal representation of the shadow, and you get in this dialogue like it's your inner child, and all that is good, and it works to a degree. But it does not go to the depth of what actually is the construct of the shadow, which is all the unresolved emotional issues that that person is carrying from their past, which is the cells, the atomic matter of the shadow. So in
Yes.
order for people to actually do profound shadow work, which is nothing more than healing and forgiving those parts of yourself, you have to neutralize the emotions around those events. And what happens then is all the judgments cease, all the internal dialogue from those events silence, all the emotions become neutral like a blank slate, because you remap the trauma to some higher resource, which can be done with this NLP technique. And when you do that, it just flattens out. And I kept thinking, how can we really know our brother as ourselves? Because if our shadow is what we think, or a part of us is what we think is our shadow, we'll only be able to see that in our fellow man or woman. Because all perception is projection. And I just find that like this really fascinating way to look at how can we actually let me know this brother as I know myself if we still do not do that kind of inner work to release those things that we know we're harboring. I have yet to be able to get to a place in consciousness that actually goes away or quiets down completely. I mean, I think it's possible. I think certain people can. I have not been able to do that yet. But I do think that, it is our own self that we're seeing in our brothers and sisters. And therefore, that for us to be able to truly see through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, there's personal work that each one of us require to do.
Definitely.
What I really
Definitely.
like about that let me know this brother as I know myself, is then if I remember that, then I can lighten up on them, because, I know I've got all weird stuff going on in my head. Maybe they have too. So I, don't have to be all judgy on them.
It gives you a sense of compassion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I love this one quote, much like your quotes that you've remembered from A Course in Miracles, Jane, where it says, am I going to quote it correctly? I'll quote it the way that I remember it. You can only walk into heaven hand in hand with your brothers and your sisters, which means that if you're judging them or yourself, you cannot ever experience heaven. So only by holding each other's hands can you enter the realm of heaven. I love that quote.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It gives it's like a picture you can paint almost.
Have you all ever wondered why judgment is so harmful? I thought about this the other day, and I thought for myself that judgment harms me. Like when someone's judging me, it doesn't harm me to the core, but it harms me that I have to, first of all, that whatever that judgment is, no matter what it is, I have to, and this is, of course, the ego speaking, I have to defend myself against that judgment, rationalize that I'm not what they think I am, and that I have to hold up invisible defenses to the energy coming to me because I feel like I'm under attack. And when I thought that, I was like, huh. So what judgment does, not only for the person that's doing the judging or for the person being judged, is it totally associates you into separation. I mean, it really just plows you right down into, I'm me and you're you, and I have to protect myself from you, and you're a bad person and I'm not. And I mean, just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it really, judgment for me is kind of like this huge precursor to the endless separation that we create with ourselves in relationships. It's almost both things are created in relationships, the holy instant and atonement, judgment, separation, and the ego are all created in the environment of relationships. I personally find that really fascinating, that the heaven or the hell is created in the same context. It's very interesting. And it's your choice, like every moment to choose something, that isn't going to make you suffer or anybody else suffer.
Is that why I'm choosing to stay single, so I don't suffer? Or create
Well,
suffering from my projecting my own suffering?
Well, I
That's
think
funny, Joe.
I think what will happen, Joe, and at least this has been my experience, and you're moving, if you're not there already, you're moving there, is when you make some really deep, profound change in you, it starts showing up differently on the outside. Like you start attracting a different quality of person. And we all have our wounds we carry into relationships, and oftentimes we can only see the things in ourselves we cannot recognize unless we're in the mirror of another person in a relationship. And I think that's such a important thing for people to understand, that your relationships is really how you get to heaven. It's not through
Right.
avoidance. It is through humbling yourself and being with another person. But here's a caveat. The caveat is that you absolutely have to choose the partner so judiciously that that partner is as committed to their own spiritual evolution as you are, and not just in lip service, but in action, and the capability of taking full ownership of their emotional states and being willing to help coach you to do the same. When you have a relationship like that is a path of two people walking towards the light of God, looking to break through the illusion, then you have a workable relationship. And that is worth the fight to make it work.
If I found someone like
It's
that,
beautiful.
I would find it.
You will. You absolutely will, Joe. Hey, look, dude, anyone with your hair has to find someone like that. You're such a handsome fellow and you have great hair. I mean, come on.
Oh,
It's
I'll
win,
definitely
win,
keep
win.
It's a total win-win-win.
definitely keep looking.
Yeah,
Stay open for it, Joe.
I must admit, I really enjoy being single. And I can do my own searching that way, but the way that what needs to be healed actually comes up is in relationship, and yeah. But I must admit, being single for long periods of time between relationships has meant that I approach the relationship quite differently each time, and I can't say that I've got a reoccurring pattern in my relationships, because they're completely different people each time
Yeah.
because of the growth. However, the same emotion or same trigger might happen in each relationship until I deal with that trigger.
Still comes back to you.
Yeah.
Like, how much have you learned in your relationship with Murray?
Oh, wow. I have learnt to trust myself a lot more. I have learnt that I'm lovable, because, like, no matter what I might be having some little monkey mind thing going on. And it's like, oh, next conversation will be the end of it kind of thing. And he comes to that completely oblivious because he's totally committed. And he's like, there's no problem here.
I like it.
Yeah. Although what you're saying about spiritual journey, I don't think he would not agree that he's on a spiritual journey of any kind. But I do know that, his language is different. That's all. His family and his friends mean everything to him.
That for me is a spiritual journey right there.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
atonement. I
Yeah.
mean, he's living it. He just has different nomenclature for it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's sort of like some of the holiest people have never been inside of a church or synagogue or temple.
Mosque. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my experience as
Yep.
well. Some of the best people I've ever known have no religion.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's a rather large paragraph. I'm not sure that we need to start that today because we're 7 minutes in, 7 minutes to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do our statements. I wrote out a really long one.
I've got so many, I'm not sure which one to choose.
But before we go, I'd love to just have us collectively just close our eyes and do a short prayer for Kali's friend Ian.
Mm.
He has a mass the size of an orange somewhere in his body. We don't know where that is. And my invitation is after the prayer to just imagine that mass the size of an orange shrinking down to the size of a grain of sand and moving it out of his body. So if you would join me, and then we'll do a little prayer for him. A few deep breaths in, relax, exhale out. Lord, we surrender over this prayer for the highest and best healing good for Ian. We ask that you surround him with whoever his mentors and spiritual guides are. Let the angels surround him and begin to give him the support he requires to return to optimal health. We ask that the mass that is the size of an orange now slowly begins to shrink, millimeter by millimeter, inch by inch, down to the size of a micro grain of sand. We ask that all of our thoughts and intentions as creators of our own reality and sparks of the divine now request and command that this mass shrink itself for the highest good for all concerned. And as it continues to shrink to the size of a grain of sand, let it begin to move from wherever it is to a benign place in the body and allow it to be eliminated through the natural elimination system of the body, so that whatever this imbalance was, the body can now begin to return back to balance, allowing this thought form and this emotion that represents the imbalance to be healed in the light of the atonement and the oneness of all life from now until eternity. We surrender over this prayer, these intentions, and our thoughts for his healing over to a higher power, and we ask if it is in the greatest good of Ian to have this particular imbalance be healed now. Amen. So I'll read my quote. I will direct you to do wherever you can be. I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful, and to whoever can follow my guidance through you. I'm choosing this was truly helpful for Ian. Who would like to go next?
I like to keep it simple. Let me know this brother as I know myself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carly.
Mine is see the call for love.
Mm.
Let, excuse me, let all my focus on changing a mind be on my mind only.
Mm.
They're still processing.
Joey, do you have one?
Yeah, just bouncing between which one would I like to read, because I took a few notes today.
Read them both.
The light that belongs to you is the light of joy. And then to heal is to make happy.
Very nice.
So all of our prayers to you, Callie, and to Ian and gang. It's been really lovely seeing you all.
Yeah.
Mm,
And
always is every week.
I love Tuesday nights. Okay, gang, God bless you all. I've got a client I require to facilitate, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.
Thank you,
See you
everybody.
God
then.
bless. Bye-bye.
Beautiful week. Mwah.
Bye.